It's not just about emails and phone calls. It's exactly what you say and how you say it that will really determine whether or not you'll get responses and companies that are eager to work with you. Hello, and welcome back to another video. My name is Preston, a professional recruiter running my own agency. Been at it for over a decade. If you're looking for your dream job or you're looking to hire your next best rockstar for your team, feel free to reach out. But in this video, we're actually going to talk about 4 bad business development mistakes that you are doing right now for your staffing business or your career. But before we expand on this a little bit further, please consider supporting a fellow recruiter. Give us a like, subscribe, click this bell. Really means a lot. A lot goes into these videos here to give you value and help you along your way. Let's get started. So if you're new here, again, nice to meet you. A couple of things about me. I started my recruiting career at a technical US staffing agency about almost a decade ago. And they had 300 recruiters at that time. I quickly started from the bottom, became one of the top producers in a little over a year, hit a couple really fantastic milestones, $500,000 on my own desk, no client handouts, and also surpassing $100,000 in billable placements or commissions in a single month. Since then, I also decided to work and bet against myself. I started solo in 2015, did really the same thing, generated over $500,000 in revenue, no splits, no VAs, no employees on my own desk, and over time to date, grateful to say we did over multiple 7 figures in placements. Now, before we get started, just a quick FYI, this is completely based on my own experience. You may agree, disagree, have different sort of perspectives. That's totally cool. Just here to share what worked for me. Honestly, hope this all helps, provides you value, entertaining in some way, and maybe one day, you can use it to level up and we can all work together. Mistake number 1, not moving fast enough. In recruiting, in staffing, really in anything, in sales and business, speed is everything, especially for business development. If you're reaching out to a hiring manager or founder or decision maker, chances are someone else in your similar or tangential business is doing the same thing. And so if you understand that, it's really important to move very, very quickly. Not only do you have to identify the person, not only have to reach out to that person, but when they respond back to you, most importantly, what do you do? What if they respond back to you at 4 or 5 p.m.? You're like, I'm about to go out, I'm gonna have a date, I'm just too tired, I'm just gonna respond to them tomorrow morning. Or maybe I'll just respond back to them, 2 days from now, or maybe I'll respond back to them sometime this week. I don't know what your cadence usually is, but this is the pivotal moment where you want to really be as fast as possible. When you do get any sort of positive signal or an intent for a phone call or a meeting, you want to be able to set that up as fast as possible. Ideally, you want to schedule something same day, or if you can't do that, try to do something maybe at least 24 to 72 hours out. I would prefer probably something along the lines of more between 24 to 48 hours, but the shorter that you can condense that timeline, the faster you can source, the faster you can qualify candidates, the faster you can submit, and the faster that you can do placements. The longer that you wait, the more that you procrastinate because you're lazy or you're just not feeling up to it, you will be outcompeted by someone else who's not lazy, who's going for it, who's condensing the timeline and will pick up that job in front of you. And you never want to ever be in that situation because it's very, very painful. Number 2, this is simple, but it's also worth saying again. You're not reaching out to the true decision maker. In a company, big or small, there are many people. There are many managers at a company, but not all of them are equal in the sense that not all of them really have the authority to make high-level budgets, P&L, or vendor partnership decisions. If you're reaching out to the wrong manager or they're not senior enough, they're just going to always have to escalate it to the appropriate people. If you reach out to someone that is not the right or correct person, you honestly just risk wasting time from the get-go that you didn't have to waste if you just reached out to the correct person from the bat. Again, a couple examples. If you reached out to a junior level manager, that could be the correct manager for the same team that they're hiring for, but not necessarily senior enough, nor do they have that executive or authority to be able to make that decision. And so what usually happens is that you pitch them, they sound excited, you sound excited, and then a lot of time goes by because they have to escalate. They have to go up to their manager, let's go up to their manager, they go up to their manager, maybe to the founder, maybe to the HR, and then everything can just get lost in the shuffle. And if you know, and if you learn one thing, the longer you just have to wait for something, the longer you have to wait for someone to give you a decision, response, usually from my experience, the harder it's going to be to close them because they can be distracted, they can meet a better vendor, they can meet a better partnership with better terms, they could have just closed that position internally. Like, so many things could happen. So you want to make sure that you move fast, but not just fast to the incorrect person, fast to the correct relevant person. So you're surgical, laser focused, you go in there, find the decision maker, and then you get that job done. What does a decision maker look like? So if you're specialized in marketing roles, right? You don't want to reach out to an associate or analyst or a specialist, those are way too junior. Perhaps you don't even want to reach out to a marketing manager. I think in my mind, whether it's a startup or a mid-level company, usually head of departments are great people to reach out to, possibly founders. If they have anyone in HR, totally reach out to them as well. But basically, you want to get to the source or as close to the source as possible, or if they have to escalate, if they have to run it by someone else, it's just to one other person, right? Instead of having to reach out to one person who has to level up to 2, 3, 4 levels above them, that just takes way too much time. Before any good outreach, you have to do a lot of research before that happens. The hard work in the outreach is the research, not so much sending out the emails or calling calls. So make sure that you find companies, you've identified decision makers, and you reach out to them and the correct person quickly. The next step when it comes to business development is that where a lot of people or companies fall short is they're just not different among the noise. Founders and hiring managers, decision makers, they get hit up and they get emails tons of times per day. How are you different? How are you differentiating yourself from others? If all you're doing is just blasting out templates and non-personalized emails, emails that are just generic with no research behind them, no human touch behind them, you aren't different or standing out from any other person or company. If you're using AI, it comes off way too obvious. That also can equally hurt because now everyone is using AI because that's the talk of the town. The more human that you come off, the more research and work that you do, the more effort that you put in will directly correlate to the responses that you will get when it comes to just cold calling, emailing, messages, etc. You can also play around, right, with different delivery vehicles. Everyone's cold calling, everyone's emailing. Maybe you can DM them, maybe you can message them, maybe there are other forms of media for you to stand out. And while a delivery vehicle is important, it really comes down to your message and your content and how are you doing that? That will leave a lasting impression, that will be memorable, instead of just doing what everyone else is doing. Perhaps it's all about giving them value. Perhaps you differentiate yourself from giving them value. Maybe you educate, maybe you get a referral, maybe you use a different, more creative media than a lot of other companies, or perhaps it's your just super in-depth email that clearly shows you've done research not only in the job description, the company, or the person on or the LinkedIn profile. It just blows all the competition out of the water. Maybe it's a little bit of everything. I think business development is one of those things where it's an art. It requires a lot of testing, a lot of iterating. And one more extra tip that I do want to share with you is you always want to test and tweak often, but give each test and tweak enough time to actually get the data. It's very easy to be like, I'm going to change the one whole email and then you get no response. I'm going to change it again the next day. You always want to at least give 3 to 5 days, maybe a good week of data for you to make an educated decision, whether or not you have to pivot, improve things, throw things out, add things in, and see how it performs afterwards. So really, really focus on being creative. It's not just about emails and phone calls. It's exactly what you say and how you say it, and the delivery vehicle that will really determine whether or not you'll get responses, positive responses, and companies that are eager to work with you. The last thing I want to kind of share with you is make sure when it comes to BD that you have intentional call to action. So in business development, in lead generation, you've done so much research, you've done so much work, but you put in so much effort identifying the right companies, potential customers and clients, decision makers, and then you start engaging with them. Now, when you engage with them and you don't have a CTA or call to action, then you're kind of like a boat without a sail being pushed around aimlessly in the middle of the ocean. You crafted, you've done the work, but then it's really not going anywhere. It's going left, it's going right, wherever the wind or the waves push it, that's where it's gonna go. So what is your ultimate goal when it comes to doing these calls? Obviously you want a new client, but how do you get there? Do you wanna talk to them in person, do a Zoom call? Perhaps you want them to, give them your availability so you can send out an invite. You have to ask for it. You never want to assume that they are inside your head and they know exactly what you're thinking if you don't explicitly say it. So you always want to end any sort of outreach with a CTA that kind of determines the next steps that will help you to book the calendar into the future. Because if you don't do that, you're going to again waste a lot of time back and forth following up, and they can just get disengaged, uninterested, and then you can also just risk just losing them altogether. So make sure that you have a clear CTA. If you want to meet them in person, mention it. If you want to set up a call, mention it. If you want them to give you their times, also share yours to eliminate back and forth happening. Try to always anticipate what could happen, and if there are a lot of gray areas back and forth, do whatever you can to kind of eliminate and avoid those situations so that you can get in there, talk to the right person, you can make your point, schedule a call, pick up that job order, and off you go and making those big bucks. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more like this, or you feel like I left anything out, comment down below. Really means a lot for your attention and time, and we'll see you on the next one.